What is it like being a Jamaican in Aruba? Hi, I'm Xavier Murphy, the founder of Jamaicans.com. And today in Jamaicans to the World, I talk to Kari Heron, a Jamaican living in Aruba. Welcome, Kari. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm wonderful.
Well, let me get right into it. First question, which part of Jamaica you come from?
It depends on what you're talking about, though. But seriously, I was born under the clock. I was born in Kingston, but I grew up. My formative years were in Portmore in Spanish Town. I think I did one term of school in Clarendon, and then I went to schools, Woodman's Prep in Kingston, in the heart of downtown and stuff, and then I went to Campion and then University of the West Indies. So I lived in my formative years in St. Catherine and as an adult in the corporate area.
So out of curiosity, where in Portmore?
Britain.
Okay, all right. I'm an Edgewater Independent City person.
Boy, when the place was really, 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 really different.
We had a lot of space, wide open spaces.
So much fun too, because coming over on that bus, remember that big bus that in the sun hot after school, that was really something.
I don't know if which area you're in, and I don't want to give no ages here, but I used to take Snow White and Magnum. I don't know if you know those buses, if that was your era.
I don't know if I would be old enough to remember the names of the buses, but I remember that old bus station that they sold Sky Juice.
Okay.
Near downtown, near the waterfront. Remember that first bus station?
Well, that's where we were. We used to call it Breezy Corner. I don't know if you call it Breezy Corner then.
I would have been too young to really be okay with all of those things, but I knew that for sure.
All right, and you're representing Campion. You're a Campionite. You already said Campion. down the road from me. I went to JC, so I was up the road from you.
Oh, you are one of those.
All right. I don't like how that sounds. One of those.
For extras, though. Did you go to Campion for extras?
No. I went for extra lessons. I went to Wolmer's
girls
Saturday. So
Wolmer's girls or Wolmer's boys?
No, Wolmer's had a Saturday class. So I used to.
Was it for the girls or the boys?
Well, it was a mix, when I went, there was a mix, and I don't remember which campus it was on, if it was on the girls' campus or the boys. It was a campus, the back of it, Michael was right, and if you want to say behind or in front of it, on the campus we were on that side of the street, because I had the both sides. But, all right.
We're on both sides, and so it could be either or. And the boys are also on that side as well.
I don't remember much, but let's get into your story. So tell me, how did you end up in Aruba? And I know there is, you have traveled, you and I have you have been featured on Jamaicans.com when you lived in Dubai. And I know you have traveled some. So tell us the journey to Aruba.
Well, I came here 5 Christmases ago because I remember due to Christmases, because Christmas in the Caribbean is just an amazing thing, period. So my son and I came to join my then husband, who was recruited here with an international hotel chain. He as an executive chef, and it was the same chain that he was in when we were living in the Middle East. So that's how I ended up actually coming to Aruba. It was for family reunification.
Okay, all right. And how long have you been there?
So that's 5 Christmases, 4 years, going 5 years. I came a few days before Christmas.
Okay.
In 2016.
Okay. So tell me, what do you, and you said you had visited before, what do you love about Antigua?
Aruba.
I've sorry.
Been to Antigua twice, so I could talk about Antigua too. But we're talking about
Aruba.
Mm-hmm. I was in Antigua, by the way, since you mentioned it. When Brian Lara broke the second record the second time, I was there in the stands in Antigua. So the first time I was at Campion, in art class, the second time, I was literally in the stands watching Brian Narby record the second time.
Nice.
So, Aruba.
Nice.
The question was, what do I like about Aruba?
What do you love? Yeah, because you mentioned you had visited. What did you love about Aruba?
The thing I love most about Aruba is the Aruban people. They're so much like Jamaicans in many ways. They're very friendly. They're very manageable. You know, if you're sitting down in a utility store waiting to pay your bills, and 15 people come in, you're gonna have to say "Bom dia" 15 times because each person comes in says "Bom dia," and everybody in chorus resounds "Bom dia." You know,
what is "Bom dia"?
It is good morning. It's very close to the Portuguese "Bom dia." And so Papiamento, which is a language spoken in Aruba, consists of 4 different languages, which are Dutch, Spanish, Portuguese, and English. So it's very friendly. You can talk to people in the pharmacy. Everybody calls you douchey, which means sweetheart. And I was like, when I came here and everybody was calling me sweetheart, I was like, I can get used to this. You know, it's kind of like a really very vibesy place. People are cool. There is little or no crime. There is no fear of, raising a child in the Caribbean. You get to really have an idyllic kind of free-spirited experience, I suppose.
So you mentioned a couple words there. I'm here thinking Aruba, English. And so you mentioned Dutch, Portuguese, and it sounds like they may even have their own spin-off in terms of their own little language itself. Is that the case? Because I wasn't aware.
Yes, Aruba, because you're not aware, because Arubans are flexible enough to speak 4 languages in addition to the Papiamento, which has 4 of the languages that compose of the Papiamento, which is their native tongue. And so that's wonderful. And yes, they also speak Spanish. Aruba is 15 miles just north of Venezuela. So Spanish is a huge influence as well. And of course, Portuguese is part of the language. And so it's just this mashup. And then of course, Dutch, it's a part of the Dutch kingdom, though it has its own parliament and it has its own government and rules and laws and so on. Arubans have Dutch nationality, and their Dutch Marines are the ones who have jurisdiction and who man the waters and the coast.
Okay. So you touch on a couple of things here. English is the main language in Aruba, though. No, Dutch.
The language of the law, the language of scholarship would be Dutch. However, the language spoken widely by Arubans would be Papiamento. So what you find is nowadays Papiamento is spoken much more widely, and might be a bit of resistance sometimes, because people want to feel like they have their own and so on. But the real core language of Aruba is Arubans. It's just that especially younger Arubans have the flexibility to speak 4 languages. And so what happens is that they're able to meet people at their point of need. So if they have the flexibility, if you come and speak in English, they can match you with it.
All right. It's and I guess I'm looking at it from every Aruban I've met just speaks like, it's English. So never
and from one language to the next. It's amazing. 4 languages.
So I'm going a little bit off my typical questions, because Venezuela is 15 miles away, and we know what's going on, has been going on there for some years. And you mentioned the Dutch coast, the Dutch Navy or Dutch whatever mans the sea. Are there a lot of Venezuelans coming over, and has that kept the Spanish language kind of strong there? How does that dynamic work?
That's a very astute question, and that's indeed the case. Aruba has long had a really great relationship with Venezuela, but with all of the stresses of Venezuela, many Venezuelans who feel as if they have no other opportunity or no other hope have had to leave, and Aruba is one of the closest places to reach. You can literally swim from one place to the next. So yeah, there has been a huge influx of Venezuelans. And so even in terms of the next question, which I know you're probably going to ask, is what are the things that you know that are difficult about Aruba? I think because of that dynamic, Aruba has had controlled immigration for a number of decades. It started off with the oil plant, the refinery, I think in the 50s, 60s, and they had quite a few people coming in from the Eastern Caribbean and so on. And they came in and it was fine, was controlled. And then they had more controlled immigration for tourism as well, because Aruba was always a very small population. I believe before the oil refinery, they probably had about 45,000 people here. And even now, there are a whopping 120,000 registered legal immigrants in Aruba, and there's a differentiation. So it's still a small country, and even though Aruba caters to millions of tourists, it's still a small population. And so because of the fact that things like they have universal healthcare, like the British system, and in the Netherlands as well, where you have everybody who's a resident has access to healthcare, because the whole essence is that everybody's supposed to be paying taxes and paying into this national service. So, a lot of, even school is also free. Really, you only pay towards the cost of air conditioning, which would be like $100 per year. So there are lots of advantages of, living in Aruba, but because of those advantages as well, and because you end up getting a Dutch passport after a while, right, they have had to put restrictions on. So before it was 5 years for, I believe, permanent residency, and now it's 10 years. And it's also, before you used to be able to do the residency test in Papiamento, which would have been the easier language to learn by far, because Dutch is one of the most difficult languages in the world. The longest, the longest word in the Guinness Book of World Records is a Dutch word. They put everything together. So the whole sentence is one word. So you go with Abraham Lincoln Street, it would be Abraham Lincoln Straat, one word.
Wow.
One word.
Wow.
But there's a whole sentence in the word. So that is difficult. So it's hard to actually get residencies. The residency is only valid for 1 year, even though they said it's 3 years, but every year you have to apply. It takes 4 years for you to 4 months sometimes for you to get it. I had my first residency issued to me 4 months 1 month before it expired.
Wow.
And it takes 4 months to actually get the process starting again.
You want to talk about bureaucracy?
Yeah, it's challenging that way, especially for an investor as well, and so on and so forth.
Right. So let me ask this, because there's so much there in terms of the immigration and so on. Cost of living. What's cost of living there like? Again, I know you have lived in a couple other countries before, but how would you rate the cost of living there? Is it high, low, medium? I said I'm going up high.
It's really high in Aruba. That's no mistake. It's really high. I think the cost of living across the Caribbean is generally high because we're island states without mass populations. So to do minor things, it's just economies of scale, right? To do one thing, you have less people in the population being able to put in. So it's like insurance. The greater the less the cost. So because we have less people physically, then the costs are generally higher. And Aruba has still 120,000. So can you imagine running for telecoms and for power and for water and all of those things?
Yeah.
So everything is going to be way more expensive. And
Plus, one of the things as I speak to folks that are in the Eastern Caribbean is everything is imported.
I knew that's what you were gonna say. Yes, absolutely everything.
You know,
Except for the sand and the seawater. But yeah, and that's one of the things that I believe we have to work on in the Caribbean, to be a little bit more, not a little bit, but a lot more self-sustainable, a lot of more resourceful. We generations before us had to be much more sustainable and self-sustainable and resourceful before, because we were island states, and if you don't have it here, you just don't have it. So
exactly.
you have to do with what you have. Whereas we know, have traveled and have whipped our appetites with things that don't necessarily grow in the region. And so we want the American apple and we want with this and that. It don't grow here, boo. Maybe you're going to, why not try eat the naseberry and stuff that can grow here, right? And make it grow here. So
and I'm a fan of naseberry versus apple, so I agree with you. so you open up the point for food. Let's talk about food there. What is the food there like? And I know this is one of your areas of expertise, because you and I first connected because of food and so on. So what is the food like? But let me also say this. If you were to recommend something that is, kind of from Aruban food, what would you recommend to a Jamaican or to anybody? You have to try something like this. What's the food like?
In Aruba, pastiche. Pastiche is fried bread. So it's like the Aruban version of a patty. It's very close to a patty, but instead of it being a flaky pastry that's made with either beef suet or butter or shortening that have that, so you'd have that Cornish pasty kind of patty crust. It's doughy crust, and it's fried, and it's filled with things like a Jamaican chicken patty, except for the texture of the dough, but the filling tastes a lot similar.
Okay.
So they're like their breakfast thing. And pastiche, let me tell you something about pastiche and how pastiche is popular in Aruba. So you will have a posh wedding with all the pomp and frivolity and whatever, and they'll have lobster and shrimp on the menu. That's how big a deal pastiche is. So yeah,
you must have it. You must have it.
You can't say you've been to Aruba and not have a pastiche.
Okay. And are you getting, I know food runs in your kind of, in your blood and whatever. Are you getting your Jamaican food there? Are you having to cook your Jamaican food, or, how is that dynamic working for you with the typical Jamaican food? And again, some places may have a nice Jamaican restaurant too. That's right there. So,
I cook. The best Jamaican restaurant is right here, Chef and Stewart. Bar none. One of the things that I love about being Jamaican and how I grew up, and I think how many of us grew up, was that the kitchen was part of our socialization. And it has become such an important skill. And for every woman I've learned from, and I've learned from my mother, from my grandmother, from Catholic cook in Montego Bay, who taught me loads upon loads, not only about cooking, but about entertaining and all sorts of different things about life skills, all sorts. Even Claudia as well in Dubai, Nikki as well with her crabs in Dubai. I've learned so many different things from several people, but the fact of the matter is I find that wherever I go, I cook Jamaican. If I want Jamaican food, I cook Jamaican food. And
Okay.
that's actually part of what it is that I do in terms of my business as well, to introduce people to Caribbean cooking because of my real interest in the preservation of the Afro-Caribbean food traditions.
So tell us then, what is the business you're doing there in Aruba?
It's Chef and Steward, and Chef and Steward is a wholly owned brand of Barack Lifestyle Consultancy. And so essentially what we do is we use food and coaching to enrich people's lives and their businesses. I do food content production. We have a content studio, so we generate content for different brands. We have brands who sell us products, and we create lifestyle images, food styling for them from the Caribbean, as well as even American brands as well. So we do that. We also do recipe development, food styling images, and we also do cooking classes as well, Caribbean cooking classes. So that's one of the premium things that I'm doing now is I have a 5-star rated cooking class, in-person cooking class. So that's what I was doing before I came on here. And I've now started to offer my in-person classes online as a virtual experience for corporations to use this thing to enrich and strengthen and build relationships in a time when people have been working remotely. And so, it's like being in a long distance relationship. You love each other, but the love kind of, you don't feel it anymore because it's been so long since you've seen each other and bonded. So this becomes, I'm also a certified and trained executive coach as well. And I've done work with groups like Marriott and so on. So I use all of that plus my own entrepreneurship experience and my experience working in food for the past 10 years to position myself in a niche.
So people can find you just by, and you can see it on the screen, folks, Chef and Steward. I believe that's a .com also. I believe it's everything is all.
Everything is good. There's a consistency in the branding. I'm chefandsteward.com. I'm Chef and Steward on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, and I'm on LinkedIn, of course, as Kari Heron. But if you search Chef and Steward on LinkedIn, you'd also still find me eventually. So because it's also on LinkedIn.
And let me ask you this: how easy is it for you to set up a business there in Aruba? Because again, you're not born in you're not a citizen of when you got there, I'm saying. And so how easy was it? Was it a easy or difficult process to get started with a business there?
The difficulty is it's two-tiered. One is the cost of it, because foreigners can only own certain kinds of businesses. So you can't do like a sole proprietorship, which is an option that's open for an Aruban. So there are 2 companies that we can open, which would be the VBA, which is what I have, which is an LLC, essentially. And this is actually a newer form of company that has been implemented in Aruba over the past few years. The previous company model was the NV, which is a much more rigid structure that also needs a lot of work with notaries to do any adjustments. The VBA or LLC, which is what we need, or a limited liability company or limited in Jamaica, that would be a lot easier to make changes to. But the cost is still prohibitive. It's not cheap at all to create a company in Aruba, and you must involve notaries. Whereas in Jamaica, you don't have to have a notary. In the UK, you could do it in 5 minutes online. It's not that simple here. It takes months. And not only do you have to get so you have to go to the notary. You also have to figure out how you're gonna create your company structure if you're gonna be using a local. It's like Dubai in that sense, the United Arab Emirates, where many people opt for getting a local sponsor or a local co-owner who has to be the director. So
I see. Yes. That way you get in. It makes things smoother when you have a local with you to kind of ease.
That also depends on relationships as well. Then you would want to be able to make certain that the relationship is ironclad.
Good.
So that would be wise.
All right. So I know I kind of went away from my typical there, but I think it's important that there are always entrepreneurs in every community, and they may want to start a business or do if they head over there. So I'm gonna move on.
The largest supermarket is now owned by a Jamaican group.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. They're also owners. They just took over ownership of a large restaurant group as well. So I think it's a group of investors who've come together and are represented by a stockbroker.
Okay. Well, good to know. So I'm gonna move on to some of the fun stuff here, and I'm gonna talk about music. What is the dominant music there, and are you hearing your reggae there? Are you, again, I'm not gonna assume it's soca. Because everybody assumes Eastern Caribbean soca. So what is the dominant music?
You want me to play something?
No, don't play. No.
I can't.
They may copyright me.
Right, because we have no. But the songs are not copyrighted here. That's a beauty, because I've had a radio show in Aruba as well. The beauty of playing local songs is that you can actually broadcast with them because they don't have the copyright things like the international ones.
I hear you, but I'm
just teasing you. The merengue, the Spanish forms are very popular here, and versions of it. And the soca is popular, and soca more than calypso, more popular in carnival time.
Okay.
And also in St. Nicholas, where you have a lot of people who would have come from the Eastern Caribbean or of that descent. So there's a station that plays a lot of calypso called Massive and so on. But generally speaking, the music is interesting. It's a mix of Latin flair and mostly Latin flair, kind of reggaeton-ish sort of modern music. And the older ones sound more like older Spanish forms.
I see. So the reggae scene, is reggae popular? Is it more reggaeton? You mentioned reggaeton. Is it more reggaeton, or is there
a bit of reggae artists coming here? So but they've come like in a Soul Beach music festival or something, or maybe as a part of a jazz festival. But I wouldn't. And then you do have reggae shows. So there are closet listeners of reggae, but it's not very often where I go out and I hear like a real reggae kind of vibe.
Right.
It comes from time to time, because trust me, I've heard reggae everywhere, including on the Dead Sea in Jordan. So everywhere you go, you hear Jamaican music. But in terms of the volume of it, nay.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna ask you about this in terms of kind of related. Arubans, how do they think of Jamaican? Is it stereotypical? Is it, I've heard from some other people that say, it's they believe we're what, strong-willed, I should say, or so what's your experience? And when they hear you're Jamaican, what do you normally get?
Well, there's some people who have a perception of how Jamaicans sound, how Jamaicans speak. So, and that's something I've gotten elsewhere as well. Oh, but you don't sound Jamaican. And so I ask, how do Jamaicans sound? Do you know what I mean? Like, if you've heard only a particular type of sound, does that mean that it is the total be all and end all of an entire group of people, millions of people here? So that's one thing. But I I think also what might be different in terms of the Jamaican experience is we kind of, what we consider to be confidence and self-assuredness and showing up without apology, just not making an apology for your presence, but really owning and occupying the space, as Mr. Wicked Friend would say when I was at CPTC in my rapping days. People may misconstrue that to be maybe conceit or a little bit, rash. And so there's a level of, when you are making introductions and stuff, that how it may come across is that people may think you're bragging when you're simply showing up as yourself.
Okay. We tend to let it be known we're here.
It doesn't mean that you're loud. It just means that you own and occupy the space without apology.
All right. Hey, it is, as I say, it is what it is, right?
We are very, very, are we proud people? We know that we've had a lot of a world, and we have made large contributions, even though we're little with Talawa, and we're always eager to share our experiences. But Arubans also love Jamaicans, by the way. Let's not get that twisted.
Right.
I mean, many people have said to me when I found out I'm Jamaican, in fact, more here than anywhere else, to be honest. I'm probably mixing up the language thing more in terms of Dubai than here. But many people here, when they hear I'm Jamaican, oh, but I had a friend who was Jamaican, and yes, and the cooking, and and then it's like, oh, wow, you're from Jamaica. Like, yeah, so. That's
nice. That is nice. So
if I'm American, then I have to explain I'm not. I'm Jamaican.
So this leads to a really good segue to a question I'm going to ask. Is there any local customs that you have found? There may be, there may not be, that you have found they do in Aruba that you found interesting? And again, it may not be, but
in Christmas, they celebrate Christmas. A lot of families celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve. So the gathering is, the Filipinos do it as well. So the gathering is, it's very Spanish.
And that's what I was about to say, because I know I've seen this in the Hispanic cultures where the big celebration is on Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Day is really
it's like Boxing Day for us.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that it's almost like they're almost like a Latin country.
And they have this, how we have clappers? Well, they have these clappers that are long lines, and so they will go for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles, and those start popping from weeks before Christmas, and they continue until after. And Aruba has, for New Year's, the best spectacular display of fireworks that goes on all across the island. You don't have to go anywhere to see it. You just have to step outside to see it. And it lasts for like 45 minutes.
Oh, that's great. So that now leads me to kind of me winding down, and one of the questions I ask. If there's an experience, and it could be that one you just mentioned, but if there's an experience, a place, something that you'd say, hey, if you come to Aruba, you want to try this, or if you can come to Aruba, you want to come at this time of the year to see this. Again, it could be an attraction, it could be an event, it could be what would you say if you come to Aruba? Let me recommend you try to experience this.
If you come to Aruba, you have to come and cook with Chef and Stewart. And that is all year. And when you're cooking with Chef and Stewart, I would recommend, because I'm not mean, I'll share the spotlight with the there's a Renaissance island that has flamingos, and they're so pretty, and it's just so idyllic, and they're kind of temperamental animals, but it's quite fun. So I would say you have to visit Renaissance Island, and you have to come and cook your Caribbean cooking class with Chef and Steward.
All right. All right.
It is actually one of the things to do in Aruba if you search it. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Good. Now, how big? I mean, how big is the island? You can drive around it in how long?
The island is a whopping 17 miles.
Ah. So that
you can drive from. I live on the north end, which is called Noord, which is Dutch for north, and St. Nicholas, which is in the southern tip, would be 45 minutes at the most southern part to the northern part.
Okay, not too bad.
No, so, it's funny though because people will say, "Well, you live far." You remember when you used to have to take 5 hours to come away from Kingston? Yo.
Exactly, before bypass, before any of them bypass, and then
you them. You Mount Russell and you're still away behind 2 trucks for like how long, and then you go through Bagua. Come on, I go through Junction. Come on.
Oh, don't talk about Junction. Don't talk about Junction. That is, the other day, a friend said, "Oh no, I don't want to pay the toll to go through Junction." I'm like, listen. Not to go through Junction, I'm sorry, to bypass Junction. I'm like, listen, no. I'll pay the toll for you. I'm not going Junction. All right?
It's so pretty though.
So yeah, I'm not doing it. Not doing it. So here's a question I have for you. What activities do you like? I know, with work, you're cooking and you're doing this, but what activities do you like to do there in Aruba? And I know you have a son. What activities you like doing?
Well, we do a lot of beach time here. The beaches are good, and on a Sunday, that's where you'll find locals in Aruba on the beach, either before church, if you go to church in the afternoon, or after church, if you go in the morning. And so the beach is a big thing. Plus, we have nice parks as well as nice walking places. So after I drop my son to school, I go for a walk in the park.
Nice.
And that's nice. And it's, it's hilly. So it's also some strength training going on there. You feel sore after that because it's not just one plain level thing. And so they've spent quite a lot of money creating infrastructure. For a small island, I have to give kudos to the different governments that have controlled Aruba where that is concerned, that there are lots of resources available for the public to go and find public spaces, public walks. There's even walk spaces now by the beach. There's also these metal, these things that you see in Europe with the machines, the mechanical machines on the roadside, so like an outdoor gym.
Right.
They're all over the place.
Nice.
So
nice.
It's great to have all of those things at your convenience.
Well, Kari, I appreciate you spending some time. I learned a lot today. I really did. I had some preconceptions on language and a couple other things, and you cleared that up. I've learned, my audience have learned, and I appreciate you spending the time with us. Now, I usually end this way, and since there's multiple languages there, what is the most informal way the folks in Aruba say goodbye? And you're going to teach it to me and the audience. And it could be in any other languages, but I don't want the formal way. I want the like catch you later, or little more, or, catch up on the strong, or, something like that. What would they say?
Before I tell you that, I want to say this about Aruba, which is very important. It has the most repeat tourist rates.
Okay.
People come here repeatedly, some even every year, 3 generations in. Grandparents and parents, and now the grandchildren. So this is how Aruba has created a family. So when people come to Aruba, they bond with people so well that people tend to come back all the time. So that's also something that other Caribbean countries, including Jamaica, need to take on board. That the whole tourism experience doesn't have to be a one-off. If we create a great relationship with the people who come to visit, then they'll be our friends every year. You know what I mean?
And I'm gonna say this in terms of the folks I know go to Jamaica. You kind of have some of that similarity. Some of the folks I know who are not, they're like, I went, my parents went, and let me also be fair in terms of I hear it most from the folks that go and stay at that little cottage or that type of thing where they stay, with they're with Jamaicans, locals who are there with them, and so I tend to hear that. But yeah, good point. 3 generations, and so really good point. They're not saying goodbye as we are about to say goodbye,
no,
right?
They say ayo, ayo.
So ayo is the way you say goodbye.
Ayo.
And which language is that now?
That's papiamento. In Dutch it would be dag or doei.
All right, that one, no, I'm not going to get the whole pronunciation type of thing.
It's like clearing your throat in the back here. Dag.
Yeah, not going to get it. So, Kari, thank you again, and ayo.
Ayo. What good.
Show some love now. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss a video.